All right, everybody, it's June 16th. We're going to try to finish this goddamn book now because I hate it. Yes, we are on page 400. We're below the line break that is on page 400. Kai had had time to figure out the vagaries of his new body. With most of the scented oil washed out of his hair, it had turned into a frizzy mass, and he was using Talamine's emerald pins and a knotted cord borrowed from Saladel to keep it under control. Some other things were the same, others were worse. Beside the loss of much of his night vision, he got tired more easily and had to eat more. When he felt pain, it was sharper, more immediate. That helped with his ability to create intentions, but he still had to dig the knowledge out of Talamine's brain. It took forever, and the intentions Talamines had been taught were not very helpful in their current situation. You can make fire out of nothing. How is that not useful at all times? Alright, this is the paragraph that I just gave up on last night because it's just so many things. Full of sound and fury and whatever the rest of that goddamn quote is. I can never remember. The canal ran between it was mid-afternoon on a clear blue day when they saw the town and the stone fort on the rocky rise above it. The canal ran between the fort and the town, ending in a boat basin below the fort with a high bridge over it. Irrigation water channeled from the canal fed lush green fields and orchards. The town was mostly 1- or 2-story wooden buildings painted sun-faded colors, with tile roofs and an open paved plaza in the center. Big awnings and a few trees lined and shaded the streets and walls and stalls of a market, and canal boats were drawn up alongside the docks. People were already coming out to stare at the wall walkers, probably out of fear, thinking there were hierarch nobles aboard. The houses were painted with colors. The houses were painted with colors. What colors? Just colors. Like, this is what
sentence?
The sentence is, the town was mostly 1- or 2-story wooden buildings painted sun-faded colors, with tile roofs, and an open paved plaza in the center. What colors? The houses were painted colors. Jesus Christ. And this is why everybody's complaining about the descriptions in this book, because, like, it's a lot of words, but they're not really telling you anything. She can't even be asked to tell you what color the houses are painted. They're just painted colors. They're painted sun-faded colors. Well, what does that fucking mean? That could mean anything. Are they ornate? Are they covered in once vibrant mosaics that have faded softly over the centuries since they were made? What? Like, there's no real description there. She's just saying, oh, the cats had fur, the houses were painted colors. I don't fucking know. The people sure were people. Also, again, we get this line. The past couple of days, several of the wounded had recovered enough to sit up, which meant there was more room for moving around the palanquin. I don't have any fucking clue how many people they have crammed into this single fucking saddle basket on the back of a wall walker. We were never given we know that the wall walker is 4 tall people tall.
And that's it.
And that has shaggy fur and, like, some claws on its feet. That we don't get any other description of it. like, yeah, sure, it's tall, but how big is it? Just being tall doesn't tell us how big it is. How broad is the fucking back? How big is this goddamn palanquin? It's not a palanquin. How big is this fucking basket on the animal's fucking back? How many people are shoved in here? Because we've been told that there's like so many wounded people that are lying on the floor and shit, and that the whole space was being taken up by like so many fucking people. Is it like the size of a house? Is it like, it's just ridiculous. There's no sense of scale. We just know there's shit tons of people in it. Not explained how, and we still don't even know what the animals look like. It's like if I told you my cat here, she has fur and pointy ears and a long tail. That doesn't tell you anything. That's just the basic outline of a cat, not telling you anything about her. Prince Air, the banner, Trenall said suddenly. I see it. Desara, get your mother. It's just ridiculous. We get this dumb line. Bashasa said blah 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 blah. He scratched his chin where beard stubble had appeared because his soldiers had forgotten to remind him to shave this morning. We don't need that sentence. We have 13 pages left in this book. Stop. She's literally just dragging out this ending as far as she fucking can. We're now on page 402. And now they're randomly using the swear, that puckered ass, as an insult. Martha Wells just thinks randomly throwing in swears in a way that doesn't make sense means that this is a serious story for serious adults, but she can't even take demons are weak to water seriously for 5 seconds. And she... And again, this is supposed to be funny. And we just keep calling these things palanquins. They're not palanquins. Shut the fuck up. It's a goddamn basket on an animal. You're riding a fucking shoe puff, but shoe puffs are better. Shoe puffs are superior! Ta-Ren swung up onto the palanquin's rail beside Kai, and he managed not to twitch. She was the only one who could climb down from one wall walker, run to catch up with another, and climb it while it was in motion. The first time it had been twilight, and she had popped up out of nowhere. It had startled Kai so badly he had almost punched her in the face. And that's supposed to be funny, and it's like, just because you tell us that Ta-Ren is also a Mary Sue, despite her not actually getting to be a fucking character, that's not making this world any less just blatantly misogynistic in so many fucking ways. Like...
Especially because she could have shown us that instead of telling us that.
As my twin has just said, we could have gotten shown that instead of told it. It was just nighttime. Like, not that many pages ago. It's not like she's not dragging this out with shit that's wasting time. But, like, she's like, ooh, look at that lesbian over there. She's a Mary Sue, too. She's so strong. She can do whatever. And it's like, yeah, and I don't care because she doesn't have a personality. you fucking shoved her and ZD together by trying to speed run Enemies to Lovers in less than 24 hours time for them. And also the starting enemies is fantasy fucking Nazi and victim of the fantasy Nazis. That's what in the fuck? And explicitly a fantasy Nazi who only stopped being a fantasy Nazi explicitly. She doesn't even try to argue against it because the fantasy Nazis started also going after people she personally cared about. She had no problem with it, all of the genocides, and being a fantasy Nazi before then. She literally only just became the Fallen because they were gonna sacrifice her little brother. No fucks given about any other thing, and we're just supposed to think that she's a good person. Like, what the fuck? And ZD explicitly hated her because she only stopped being a fantasy Nazi, stopped in quotation marks, because they were personally coming after her little brother. Like, explicitly. ZD spelled that out the first time we fucking met them, chronologically. And then less than 24 hours passed. They weren't even interacting for most of that time. And now they're lovers. They're in love. It's like, you didn't do the trope. You just did bad fucking writing and shit. Enemies to Lovers is not for, oh, but what if the Nazi and a victim of the Nazis, what if they were both women? And they fell in love. That's just genocide apologism. That's just fucking... It's so bad. Bashasa's like, oh, the puckered ass. That's a good insult, Lashar. I like it. That's apt. I swear to God. And that's also supposed to be funny. This is just a bunch of bullshit. I don't care. But what are we going to do? Lashar demanded, an edge of despair in her voice. Kai was wondering that too, but thought it was typical of how Bashasa's cousins were so obstructive, right up until it was time for him to think of something to save their lives. It's just so stupid. There's another line break on page 403. Just end the fucking book. End the goddamn book. We're pretending it's a big political showdown because the guy who we've never met, I can't even remember his name, and I just read it on the page before. The guy who took over Benes Arik and blah 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 blah. It's just pretend political drama of, oh, there's a big bad here. It's dumb. And then there literally can't be any tension because all the people who actually live in this town that they've come to are already lining up to help them and help disguise them among them. And it's like, there's no tension at all. And Martha Wells is trying to pretend so fucking desperately that they're all gonna die and they're all so depressed. But this is the past timeline. Kai felt a little sick. The last real Prince Heir of Benes Arik, going to his death. What would it have blah 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 blah. No one ever came back from the summer halls before, Kai said in realization. Saladel nodded grimly. At least they will remember us. We're on page 404. That was a waste of so many pages. Nothing happened. Timeline? This is the past timeline, where she's trying to pretend in the past, where we know they all don't die, and she's trying to pretend that, oh, it's so dramatic. Even though she's made all 403 pages up until this point make it impossible for you to give a single shit about one single goddamn character. Because nothing... It's ridiculous. Kai watched it like a story being acted out, mostly in languages he didn't know, though Saladel translated when she could. That's on page 404, and it's like, this is not being clever. Kai watched it like a story being acted out in a language he didn't know, because he doesn't speak the languages everybody here is talking, despite earlier Martha Wells going out of her way to make him and Zedi very abruptly offended out of nowhere because people assume they don't speak Araic, a thing they literally don't do right now. It's like, it's ridiculous. This is all just such bullshit. Just shut up. She's like trying so hard to convince us. It's their last stand. They're all going to their deaths. They're not, though. And there's literally no emotion here. There cannot be any emotion here. You can write a story where everybody knows from the start that everybody lives, and it can still be fucking harrowing to read because it's well written and we care about the characters and their pain and their fucking grief actually means something because we experience it with them instead of just being told he was really fucking angry right now, or just told that actually pain for them is good because it means it gives them infinite terrible power. There's just a really long goddamn paragraph where nothing is happening. I'm just skipping to the... So fucking stupid. Bashasa tried to tell Zedi to leave, but she said pointedly, "We started this together, we'll finish it together." This is just fucking annoying. There were only enough horses for the prince heirs and higher-ranking soldiers. Bashasa asked for Taren to be given one, as courtesy to an immortal marshal, and Zedi swung up to ride behind her. Because, look, guys, it's totally lesbian representation, because, they went from fantasy Nazi and victim of fantasy Nazis to, oh, look, they're riding a horse together, when they've only interacted, like, maybe 5 hours in real time for them. They've known each other for less than 24 hours. It's been a few extra days now, all off screen now, but they literally didn't know each other for more than 24 hours, and they interacted for maybe 3 or 4 or 5 of those hours at max, like in actual consecutive time, and it's probably less than 5 hours. This is ridiculous. What? These horses were... This is on page 404. Somebody fucking stop her. This should have been set on fire. This should have been set on fire. Find the fucking gif of Chidi handing Michael his goddamn manuscript in the good place and just throwing it into the fucking trash. This should have gotten set on fire, chopped up with fucking lightsabers. Stop. These horses were a breed Kai hadn't seen before, sandy-colored and tall, with long legs and pads on their feet instead of hooves, teeth a little too sharp, and eyes a little too beady. But when they brought one for him, it shied like a normal horse.
So why is it there?
Do
all animals react that way?
No, they don't.
So horses in particular just don't like demons. Horses are racist.
Look! She's implying the pedophilia some more, but we're supposed to pretend it's not pedophilia because we're pretending Kai is magically an adult because she body swapped into the body of an adult, even though she was trying to insist that Anna's body actually was an adult. After establishing indisputably multiple ways, constantly, that Anna was a child, a small youth, and then Martha Wells on page 100 abruptly decided, no, actually she's not a child at all. She was a fully grown adult, guys. Trust me, she was just a little short.
You can tell that's where all the people who she credits in the acknowledgments came in and said, hey, that's fucked up. You shouldn't do that.
So now, because this other horse is shying away from Kai, because horses don't like demons, Kai's gonna ride behind Bashasa on his horse. Because Bashasa's just such a good horse rider, he can make the horse stop being afraid.
That's
With
still
a random,
horse.
this is just a random. It's not even Bashasa's personal horse that trusts him and has a relationship with him. This is just a random fucking horse from a town that somebody just pulled out of a stable to give to them so that they wouldn't be walking around like peasants. Literally, this is a random fucking horse, and we're just told Bashasa's just such a good horse rider. Okay, but what if this horse isn't trained? It's not even his personal fucking horse. This is ridiculous. So you see, the lesbians, the enemies to lovers lesbians, fantasy Nazi and victim of fantasy Nazis lesbians, they're riding a horse together, and now the pedophilic ship of a fully grown man with a fucking child, they're riding a horse together too. Isn't that romantic?
What page
This is page 404. This is page 404. Why do we get descriptions of fucking horses? Stupid fucking horses that shouldn't exist. You don't need to describe the goddamn horses that are never going to appear again on page 404 of a 414-page book. Stop it. This is literally, that's how many pages we have left to go, and she's still trying to dump new shit in. Somebody needs to fucking smack her with a ruler. Smack her hands away from the fucking keyboard and tell her, no, stop it. This is so fucking ridiculous. The outer wall, Kai swung up behind him on the horse. With the cadres and others walking, they rode toward the bridge. The outer walls slanted back, the stone polished to reflect the sun. The inner walls were painted with bright colors and carved with images of savage battles where the warriors had elaborate and implausible armor. Soldiers watched them from the little cupolas atop many round towers. It's like, stop. Just shut the fuck up. They don't need to go walking. Just get rid of this whole fucking thing. The inner gates of the fort made clanking noises, period. Gears that what? All right. The inner gates of the fort made clanking noises, period. Gears turning as the heavy doors were cranked open, period. This is so fucking terrible. I need that guy to read this fucking book and tear it to pieces. I swear to God.
Don't you love it when authors tear apart books because they know how to write?
Kai leaned on Bashasa's sturdy back because why not? And thought, this is fine, I'm tired. Kai leaned on Bashasa's sturdy back because why not? Don't you guys ship Bashasa and Kai? Don't you ship the child with the fully grown adult? Says Martha Wells. Isn't it cute? Isn't it shippy? The child? With an adult?
With an adult who got
An adult that should be treating him. They should, if they're going to have any kind of relationship, it needs to be adoptive parent and this poor fucking child I found that got abandoned. Kai is literally still a fucking child. What are you talking about? Martha Wells, am I waiting for you?
I can just rewatch it later.
Okay. Martha Wells is trying so hard to make this the Imperial Ratch. She's trying so hard. She said, escape, Bashasa said thoughtfully. What? The town leader. Our escape, Bashasa clarified, implying that we slipped away from a place that was still intact. Kai understood. I'll just restart it, unless you're going outside again immediately.
I'm literally walking into the living room.
Okay. The town leader, our escape, Bashasa clarified, implying that we slipped away from a place that was still intact. Kai understood then. Escape, not rebellion. Either Karanis hadn't been told. I'll just reread it since you're sitting there now. You guys are just gonna get it 3 fucking times. She said, escape, Bashasa said thoughtfully. What? The town leader. Our escape, Bashasa clarified, implying that we slipped away from a place that was still intact. Kai understood then. Escape, not rebellion. Either Karanis hadn't been told the full story, or he was keeping it from the other Reich. How can that help? Bashasa shrugged. It's given me an idea. And then we end that conversation.
Then we end that conversation.
Just
like any interesting conversation.
Every single
actually...
conversation that ever gets started in this book just ends abruptly, unless it's a conversation that's accomplishing nothing. All the interesting things and then it's over. That's a dumb fucking statement. They rode through the gates, the shadow of the heavy walls and pillars falling across them like bars. Inside was a broad stone plaza, looked down on by walls honeycombed with windows and balconies. A ramp dropped down to a lower plaza, then to another even lower, like a giant's version of a stepwell. That's just a normal stepwell. It's not a giant's stepwell. Most of the fort's soldiers were assembled on those 2 lower levels, watching them. More mortals watched from the windows or lined the balconies. Every time she says the word mortals, it's just hammering home even further that she just really wants to say muggles. She wants to call everybody else muggles. She wants to call them normies. She's always doing this. The next fantasy series she comes up with, she'll have another alternative. Because it's groundlings or humans or disparagingly bots. Now it's mortals. She just wants to call people normies. Anybody who's not one of her cool protagonists. And the best praise you can give one of those normies is saying, my normies. Those are my humans, says Murderbot. Those are my mortals, says Kai. Those are my mortals. Or groundlings, says Moon. It's just, she's very condescending. And all of her protagonists think that they are smarter than everybody else. So maybe she just thinks legitimately that she's smarter than everybody else and everybody around her is an idiot. They wore legionaries' armor and gear, but they were all various shades of brown, their dark hair in loose or tight curls, and few looked happy to be here. Do you mean their skin is shades of brown? Because just saying that very abruptly is weird as hell. Only those with officers' tails were the paler-skinned mortals from the south, from wherever the hierarchs bred their followers. That's just saying very abruptly they were all various shades of brown is weird. What the frick? Oh, she's spelling this out? Only... Let me just restart this damn paragraph. I'll just read the whole paragraph, because it's all one paragraph. They wore legionaries' armor and gear, but were all various shades of brown, their dark hair in loose or tight curls, and few looked happy to be here. Only those with officers' tails were the paler-skinned mortals from the south, from wherever the hierarchs bred their followers. Conscripts from a Reich and the surrounding areas, comma, then, period. I should have done punctuation that whole time, but I'm not going to do it again. And all those Kai could see were dressed as men in tied split skirts, period. Kai had figured out by now that a Reich soldiers were traditionally women, comma, and a Reich women wore pants. Had the hierarchs killed the whole garrison and conscripted men to replace them, comma, or made the captured soldiers change...
Sex change surgery on the soldiers to...
I'm gonna throw this book across the room. Let's restart that sentence. I will try not to throw this book across the room. We're on page 405. You can tell people in the Discord I'm about to throw this across the fucking room. And all those Kai could see were dressed as men in tied split skirts. Would you like to tell them what I'm reading out loud?
I can find the quote later to type it out.
Kai had figured out by now that a Reich soldiers were traditionally women, and a Reich women wore pants. Had the hierarchs killed the whole garrison and conscripted men to replace them, or made the captured soldiers change their gender? By changing their clothes. I'm closing this book.
Would you like me to
Where's
finish
my
reading it?
marker?
Where's my markers? You might have to.
I'm... Changing your clothes is... Oh my god. I'm gonna have a bruise on my knee from hitting myself with this book. This is page 405 out of a 414 book, and Martha Wells is telling us she thinks changing your clothes is what changes your gender. Oh my god! What is wrong with her?
Because she doesn't actually talk or listen to queer people. She doesn't do...
She doesn't know what the word non-binary means. Does she think being non-binary means you just change your fucking clothes and that changes your gender? Because she said in that interview she was clearly reaching for a fucking verb when she was trying to explain how Murderbot's not non-binary, as in you can do some kind of verb, and then she was like, as in being in between male and female, and it's like, that's not what non-binary means. That's what it can mean. It does not mean that's not what it means.
Would you like me to finish reading the last?
How many pages is it? It's 10. It's less than 10 pages. You'll have to sit here. Oh my god. Thank you all kitties. You guys are such good cats.
Hi guys.
You're such good sports. You can start at the top of the page or wherever the fuck. I'm getting a popsicle. I'm going to stab the fucking concept of this woman.
I'll restart that paragraph for all of our listeners at home. Just so everybody who on the audience who's actually queer, actually talks to queer people, actually listens to other queer people, actually has any grasp of what it means to be queer in a gender way, instead of just being an out-of-touch 60-plus-year-old who thinks that non-binary is a verb, and to be non-binary means you're specifically gender fluid, and that apparently it's not your identity that changes your identity, it's your clothes that changes your identity, apparently. So, we'll start at that paragraph at the top for all of our actual queer viewers at home who have somehow made it this far. They wore legionnaires' armor and gear, but they were all various shades of brown. They being the people, not the color of the armor, which is what that sentence structure implies. Their hair dark in loose or tight curls, and few looked happy to be here. Only those with officers' ponytails. Otherwise, it just sounds like they have little furry clip-on belt tails, which would be cool enough.
Yeah, whatever.
Only those with officers' ponytails were the paler-skinned mortals from the south, from wherever the hierarchs bred their followers. Conscripts from the Iraq and the surrounding areas, then. And all those Kai could see were dressed as men in tied, split skirts. Kai had figured out by now that Iraq soldiers were traditionally women, and Iraq women wore pants. Had the hierarchs killed the whole garrison and conscripted men to replace them, or made the captured soldiers change their gender? Another reason they didn't look happy to be here, because as we all know, a man is not allowed to wear a dress. A man cannot wear a dress and still be a man. A man has to become a woman to wear a dress. Also, would your army not, if you have pride in your army and all this stuff, would your army not be its own, like, this is more world building. This does not have anything relevant to do with the book itself. But if you have specific uniforms that denote gender, and you take pride in your soldiers in your army, would they not have their own gender that's literally just soldier, that uses specific pronouns for soldiers, and soldier is its own separate gender and class within society that has its own uniform to go with that? Because I'm hoping that you're not just making your armor and shit because of aesthetics instead of what actually protects you in battle. Is she just doing the whole boob armor thing, but it's pants and skirts now? Actually, yeah, she is. And she thinks that by reversing the target's pronouns of misogyny, she's somehow not doing misogyny. But it's still literally just real world misogyny, except the people who are being targeted by it use he, him pronouns instead of she, her pronouns, so that makes it okay and good, and somehow great political commentary when our main characters don't push back against it at all and have no issues with it. So we're literally supposed to be agreeing with our protagonist that it's good and morally neutral and all that, blah, blah, blah. So I'll just be reading this. I'll comment on the hilarious things.
That was so high pitched. Hi.
Has the name Karanis been mentioned ever before?
A few times. This is the guy that hasn't existed until
This is the guy who has not existed until 5 pages ago.
You can probably read it out loud as long as you just intersperse it with commentary.
Opposite their position, high on the far wall, was a large shaded gallery where a group of brightly dressed mortals and legionary officers stood. Why are the legionary officers separated from the mortals, implying that they're not mortal? That's just bad.
The legionaries are mortals.
You could have said
Seriously separated
where,
them?
yeah, mortals and legionary officers stood. That should have been legionary officers and other
Civilians?
mortals.
Or just civilians. Like,
Yeah,
what?
or civilians, if you're going to make a distinction between the legionary officers and mortals, which implies that the legionary officers are immortal.
Which they're not.
Which they're not. Only one was sitting down on a carved stone chair on a raised platform like the hierarchs in the water court. But he didn't look like a hierarch. He looked like an Iraq in a very elaborate brocaded coat, like the one Bashasa wore. That had to be Karanis.
Oh, that's right for too.
Mm-hmm. And in dialogue, we are once again being told what's happening instead of it being in the narration and building up to that in the narration. He's arranged this like a stage, Bashasha said, thoughtful and without a trace of nerves in his voice. As resigned as Kai was, his heart was pounding at every pulse point, which means something is about to happen. This was already a massive trap. There was no way they could escape, but Karanis would know Bashasha, and Bashasha was never more dangerous than when he was talking. Have we ever seen that?
No, that is.
How
not
long have these
true.
guys been interacting?
Less
for-
than 24 hours?
Less than 24 hours on screen, like maybe 5 hours on screen.
That's
and
hilarious.
Apparently, a few days have passed off screen. That's a complete lie. That has never been true.
This is the thing the one reviewer mentioned. Somebody shouted, "Crossbow!" And while they're sitting on a horse, they pulled this maneuver. Kai grabbed Bashara's waist and swung him around, putting his own back towards the most likely direction of attack.
Maybe just drop off the horse onto the ground.
If you're gonna do anything to shield yourselves from crossbow attacks, like, sorry horsey, but you should be diving to the ground and using that giant ass wall of muscle as a shield. Sorry horse, rip to you. Especially in all the Planet of the Apes movies, but they're sitting on a horse, so we've got, where's that before? Bashara's sitting on the front of a horse, here's the horsey head. Bashasha, whatever. Bashasha, sitting on the front of a horse. Kai is sitting behind him on the horse. Somebody shouts crossbow, so Kai does this while they're sitting on the horse. Grabs him, Bashasha, and turns them around so Kai back is towards the front of the horse. And they're still on the horse apparently, and they have not fallen off the horse. They're not diving off the horse on purpose or anything. They're just pretending that they're standing or walking, even though they're specifically on a horse. He felt the thump below his right shoulder just as they tumbled off the horse. They did fall off the horse. But he still managed to turn them around before they fell off the horse to get shot with a crossbow bolt through the shoulder. The horse danced sideways, snarling, blocking more potential shooters. Kai looked down at the bloody bolt head sticking out of his upper chest. He didn't want to pull it out. It was wedged in deep, and he couldn't afford to lose the use of one arm right now, even for the short time it would take for him to recover.
It's instantaneous.
It's instantaneous. The pain will make you physically, magically stronger, and you can heal it like that. This is literally just...
It's literally instantaneous healing. And every time he has been shot by a crossbow bolt, which was like 10 times, it immediately gets pulled out. And that is said to be the best thing to do. Every time you've gotten stabbed, you're shot.
Mm-hmm. Bashasha gripped his shoulders, brow furrowed in concern. Fourth Prince, this grows more disturbing every time it happens. It's fine. What's your plan? This is a funny romantic joke, right? This is relatable, ha-ha, right? What is up with the lines through the pages?
I don't know. More printer error. Our book will talk very well. I'm eating my frozen peaches.
Okay. It's very funny. Like, they're already actively being shot at by these people who are clearly trying to assassinate them. So this guy, Bashara, just pulls a square of fabric out of his coat and says, "Stand aside," to all their guards, which have surrounded them. And then they're just walking forward completely unguarded, despite them already being shot at by multiple people. Because they're obviously, the villains are drinking stupid juice.
Does Kai still have the bolt in his shoulder?
Kai still has the crossbow bolt in through his back, in sticking out of his chest, and they're just calmly walking forward because the villains are drinking stupid juice and not going to take this opportunity to kill them all stone dead.
And Kai is a child.
And Kai's a kid that she's decided to just magically age up his narration and stuff because she didn't want to deal with writing a kid anymore.
Murderbot.
And turning him into Murderbot.
What a demon.
Mm-hmm. As they stepped forward, the silence broke. Murmurs, gasps ran through the assembled conscript. It made Kai think Karanis had not told his people who was arriving. Even the mortals on the throne platform reacted with shock. Bashar lived, and he was standing next to someone. Bashasa lived, and he was standing next to someone apparently unaffected by a crossbow bolt jammed through their chest. Both much to be startling.
You can just shorten his name to Shasa if you want.
Mm-hmm. This is a weird thing to say. From the gallery, Karanis said Bashasa's name. His voice was deep, sounding hollow in the large space. Some trick of the way the walls helped it carry it. In Imperial, he continued, which implies that he's saying the guy's name in a different language. Like, okay. You have violated the treaty with the honored high hierarchs, which is all capital H's, and endangered all of our people.
We have never called them honored high hierarchs ever.
I'm just going to call him Bash. Bash shook out the fabric, the torn banner he had taken from the trophy hall. Did we see him take it from the trophy hall?
I don't think so.
He held it up, let the sun and wind catch and unfurl it. Kai was certain Zedi was responsible for that wind. It wasn't disturbing the other banners hanging above the gallery. Dahin, suddenly at Kai's elbow, whispered, "That's the banner of Sunai Arik, the city that the hierarchs completely destroyed." Is Dahin just Wrathy? Who is then just Root?
Yeah. But also, he's totally traumatized and deep.
So he's Chime also.
Yep.
Chime, of the tragic backstory of having so many adult siblings he was really close to who all died horrifically from disease, but that's just a one-sentence thing that we immediately forget about because it doesn't matter to the story or him. Mm-hmm. These speeches are very funny. Mm-hmm. So, in like two short paragraphs ago, Kai says that he thought that Zedi was the one making the banners unfurl dramatically in the wind, and now he's saying Kai felt Zedi's command of the wind change as she altered the air movement to make sure the bash was heard. So we're going from Kai was pretty sure she was the one making it flap dramatically in the wind because nothing else was moving to she is the one doing it with no Now Kai was now certain she was the one doing it, or he's seeing her do it out of the corner of his eye, or he's feeling her magic on the wind. It's just regular wind, and he's just assuming it was her. Rigmarole. Tell me if this speech means anything to you.
Okay.
We left the hostage courts and marched through the summer halls, leaving Rowan behind us. We fought the hierarchs there. We won. I took this from their wall of trophies, where they hung the stolen treasures of 100 lands and the bones of the brave who fought them, disgraced and despoiled like animals. I ripped this banner from the wall and redeemed the blood of our murdered kin in hierarch's flesh.
This seems like a cool speech that Martha Wells just thought of at random and then wrote the whole book around, but didn't actually make it important.
Mm-hmm. We got some attempts at political maneuvering.
Yeah, she keeps trying that.
Trinell passed Salatil her short spear and pulled the bag open. Lashar hesitated, then her expression turned grimly determined. She stepped forward, dragging both heads out of the bag and held them high. Even Kai understood the politics of that. Lashar and Bash were from rival branches in their family, and they had just shown they were united in this. Telling us. Instead of building up their rivalry and dynamics and stuff.
Lashar has only existed for like less than a chapter.
Lashar has apparently existed for less than a chapter. This is a lie! Karanis shoved to his feet. Panic, clearly audible. The dispatch from the high shield of the hierarchs, because we have to make our villains fucking stupid, incompetent cowards for them to be defeated. Bashar roared, "It's no lie!" And the words still managed to sound calm and controlled.
You can't do both!
You can't roar. It's no lie! And then still sound calm and controlled while doing that. You can't use that word of roar. We're getting 4 names mentioned in the little speech, rapid fire. Just pulling up everybody's titles and everything to make this sound so complicated and like such an epic journey. I joined with the prince heirs of our imprisoned cities, with allies from Enelin, Ilvery, Grail, Nibbit, and many others. I almost said Nibelheim from Final Fantasy VII. All have risen to fight, and immortal Marshall joins us, a witch sister of the Kalen Islands, and a powerful demon prince of the fourth house of the Under-Earth. Others will follow in our wake. We left their summer halls a ruin where the bodies of legionaries and hierarch nobles rot in flood water. Karanis, you took this duty because you love our people and wish to protect them.
Why?
Now it is time to fight for them. Join us!
Martha Wells just keeps trying to rehabilitate the fantasy Nazis that she made up.
Bash had given the usurper a way out, and he should have taken it. Movement on the gallery warned Kai before Teren could speak. He stepped in front of Bash and lifted his arms. 3 bolts thunked into his back. One passed under his arm and struck Trinal in the leg.
Fuck Trinal in particular, I guess.
She fell back with a low grunt of pain as Nirana caught her. The crowd had gone silent again. Sorella helped Nirana
How
pull
did him raising his arms help?
Who knows? Like, they've been shot at exactly once, which would have killed this guy. And then they just continue forward while nobody does anything, and they just sit and listen to them give a speech. And then he says, you took this position because you love our people and want to protect them. Now's your chance to... And then Kai gets shot at 4 times. But once again, they're shooting at Bash 4 times. Kai intercepts 3 of them, and then the 4th one just strikes a random background character. And the crowd is silent, and everybody's just watching this. You really think that
because
people
you
are...
sit in silence during political assassinations.
Yeah, you sit in just silence and just watch like it's on TV when political assassinations are happening right in front of you. It's not like people run, scream, cower, dive for cover, run to help people, scream and tackle shooters. People would literally just sit in complete silence and just watch
Because
as people get murdered in front of them.
Your protagonist's dramatic moment.
Because this is your protagonist's dramatic moment, and this is the only way that a crowd can be written in a Martha Wells thing, as just silent, passive consumers. They can't do anything, and they never will. Because only your super ultra special, born special, super powered, overpowered protagonist can ever change a system or anything. Regular people can't do anything. Kai took a deep breath, meeting Bash's worried gaze. Pain reverberated through Talamines' body, but if he faltered, they might be done for. Bash had claimed the support of an unstoppable demon prince, and Kai had to make that true. Karanis was surely too smart to let Bash talk his way out of anything less. Kai released a pent breath, made his face neutral, and turned around. He stepped to the side, revealing Bash again unhurt, his demon prince apparently unaffected by the bolts. Bash raised his voice again and said,
And Kai's a child.
And
Kai's a child. He's just being
Bash raised his voice again and said, I call on you all. Join us. Karanis yelled, Kill them! And the crowd erupted. And then there's a page break. There's a little thing to show there's a time skip, because we're not even going to do anything with that. We're literally just skipping past all the things that could have been interesting. Things that should have been the climax of the novel are just getting skipped past. This is fucking hilarious. This is page 409 out of 414.
And we apparently already had the climax like a while ago, supposedly.
And we had the climax already, where Kai reveals that he solved the plot of the book 5 years previously, off screen.
With no hint of that throughout.
Yeah. Karanis yelled, Kill them! And the crowd erupted. Time skip symbol. The sun had shifted towards twilight, and the day's heat had broken by the time Kai climbed up to the viewing gallery where Bash was working. In the courtyard below, conscripts hurried back and forth along with the cadres, but Kai honestly wasn't sure what everyone was doing. Once the crossbow bolts had been extracted from his chest and back, he had spent the last couple of hours helping Prince Air, Haranan, and Saleto question the few surviving legionary officers and the 2 hierarch servant nobles. Karanis himself had been one of the first to die. A server standing at the back of the viewing gallery had stabbed him from behind with a meat knife. Imagine if we had been shown this. Imagine if our characters had to fight their way through all these guards and actually have this be the climax. And they fight their way up there, and then they see Karanis maybe has somebody tied up, and it's a pivotal moment, and then that unnamed servant, who doesn't exist as a character and is literally just there to get the plot moving and doesn't mean it or stand for anything, just comes in with a meat cleaver and stabs the man in the back right as he's about to give some triumphant thing. And you could have made that a character that Kai and the others have met and, like, talked to before and forged some kind of connection with them.
Or actually make it about the common people doing
Or make
shit.
it actually about the common people doing shit. But no, we just skipped past this because she didn't want to write it. So it's literally just...
Despite dragging this ending out.
Blah, 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 blah. Bash has just spread his coat out and is just working on writing while a bunch of his guards stand around to guard him and send messages. There was a flask of water and cups nearby, but someone was going to have to make Bash stop and eat soon. Because we're shipping them. And that's the easiest shorthand for trying to make them a ship. What news, fourth prince? Kai took a seat on the dusty stone beside him. He did have a report to give, but it wasn't urgent. How was Trinell? She will recover, the doctors say, but she is forbidden to walk for now, at least without a crutch. I think it'd be very funny if I just read you the dialogue, because...
You just do that. It'll be funnier. It'll be funnier. Good luck finding the dialogue.
Mm-hmm. So let me restart this. They're just sitting around after we just completely skipped past what should have been the climactic battle of the entire book. The whole thing that we've been leading up to and this ending has been dragged out to, that we literally just get a time skip past it. What news, fourth prince? Or no, let me do that. Sitting, not even looking up. What news, fourth prince? Kai says, how's Trunau? She'll recover, the doctors say, but she's forbidden to walk for now, at least without a crutch. Sound of moving clothing. That was the plan? You were just gonna talk? Yes. But before I realized Caranus had been lied to and was woefully unprepared, I had no idea what to say. He could have accused you of selfishly endangering Alia Reich. He started to, didn't he? He did. I would have replied that the hierarchs had no intention of fulfilling their treaties, that they would slaughter us all eventually so they could settle our land unimpeded, but I have said this before, to not much effect. There seemed no other option then. He could have also offered deals to the other prince heirs and played us off each other. But you made him too afraid to think. That was very well done, Kai. And then he ordered an attack that made it clear he was afraid for the people to hear me speak. Of course, nothing is guaranteed. We could all die tomorrow. But until then, we work. Did you know the conscripts would turn on him? I knew any right conscripts would not have been treated well and would not be pleased to turn on their own people. It was certainly worth a try. Awkward pause. I don't know if I can do what you want me to do, Bashara. If I can stay calm and always think ahead like you do. I'm so angry, I could burn the world. This is what Kai's saying. I don't know if I can do what you want me to do, Bashara. Bash. If I can stay calm and always think ahead like you do. I'm so angry, I could burn the world.
No, he's fucking not.
Because we have to be told that about Kai.
And it's literally not true.
Unfortunately, someone else has already burned it. We need to unburn it. Will you help me do that, Kai?
And this book costs $28.99.
Yes. You need to eat something. I can tell you what we got out of the prisoners, and Hiranan wants to talk to you after that. Ah, Bashara took his hand. Then let us go and do that. You need to eat. I can tell you what we tortured out of the prisoners after that. And then there's a whole other chapter that is 2 pages long.
Alright, I can read that. I ate my frozen peaches, so I'm not going to throw the book across the room. Unless she somehow manages to top that.
Funny.
We return this broadcast to your normal fucking narrator, whatever the fuck it is. If she says something in the next, here's those 2 pages, and then there's that half page. If she says something here that makes me throw this book across the room, then it's the fate of the fucking universe that this book gets thrown across the room. For the record, we are now on page 412 of 414. Tanez and Sandra were sitting in the shade near the raft, swinging their feet and talking in witch speak, even though Sandra doesn't speak witch speak. You could say Tanez was teaching Sandra witch speak. That would be fine, but she doesn't speak witch speak because she's never been taught. We got one scene near the very start of us being told she was learning a few basic words. That doesn't equate to they are talking in witch speak. She can't talk in witch speak. It's a lesson in witch speak. Shut the fuck up. There was still a lot to do, period. Get to a place where they could find transport, so they could return the Ascension raft, flying boat, to Immortal Lady, and she could carry away her prisoner, period. They would have to come back here to dismantle the witch cells and hide them where Bashat and the Rising Worlds couldn't find them, period. Maybe Grandmother would have ideas about that, period. Worry about Arn Nefa, who I'm not calling Arnsterath. Her name is Arn Nefa. That was the one he had no idea what to do about. It was just too much at the moment. Kai was just going to sit here for now. Dahin wandered up the gallery and plopped down on the step at his feet. Did you talk to Ta-Ren? Kai asked him. Dahin had sobbed with relief when he saw her. Kai thought it was a good sign.
Who's sobbing with relief at the sight of who?
Dahin is sobbing with relief at the sight of Ta-Ren, his sister. Because, these people totally have emotions. Yeah. It's totally a found family, guys. It's a story about the families we choose. Trust Martha Wells. She's so good at writing. Dahin's brow creased in what might be concern. She said it was like being asleep and having dreams she couldn't remember. He didn't look up at Kai. Do you believe her? Is she lying to make us feel better about not finding her sooner? It was certainly a Ta-Ren thing to do, but Kai didn't think so. Ta-Ren hadn't been maddened when she came out, just confused, like Kai and Zedi had been when they had woken in the tomb. All of the horror of the situation had been in retrospect. I believe her. The cells were made a long time ago by Borderlanders. They had no reason to be cruel. Now on page 413. Please, for the love of fuck, let me get through this page without having to throw this through the fucking window. I like that. Dahin's like, what should we do with this place? Burn it down? We probably can't flood it. And then Kai's like, I like this place, Kai said, then was a little surprised to realize he wasn't being ironic. Despite everything, period, it should stay, period. Kai met Dahin's gaze and said, come back to Avogantrum with us. Ah. Dahin smiled and looked out toward the court again. Are you trying to impose your will on me? Yes, Dahin, that's what I'm doing. Can't you tell? Then Zedi and Ta-Ren emerged from the door there, from the far side of the gallery. They were holding hands, Zedi towing Ta-Ren along, Ta-Ren content to follow where Zedi led. See, guys? She totally did the trope. The trope that literally depends upon characterization and character development. The enemies to lovers trope. But she did it with a fantasy Nazi and the victim of fantasy Nazi genocides. Oh my god, I'm on the last page. Zedi looked relaxed for the first time since they had woken in the tomb. All the tension washed out of her shoulders, the strain from her eyes. Even though she's never actually shown any tension at all. She has zero personality except be mean to kids, say threatening things, and that's it. Kai started to turn towards the door and to the stairs, but Ziti took his hand instead. A cool breeze swept through the gallery as she called a wind devil. "Where exactly are we going next?" she asked. "Besides away from here." "I don't know yet," Kai admitted. He had meant to ask Dahin for ideas, but the vivid memory of sitting here with Bashasa was all he could think of now. He said, "To find something to unburn." Taren flicked a knowing look at him, and Ziti said with decision, "I like that." And this is the last line in the book. "And together they stepped into the air." That's it. That's the end of the book. Acknowledgements. We are reading this acknowledgement page. Acknowledgements. Look how big a text they put that in. "This book might not exist without my friend Felicia O'Sullivan, who must have read what felt like 100 drafts of the first 30,000 to 80,000 words with no resolution in sight, and who was encouraging and enthusiastic and helped me figure out what I was trying to do." That's all one word sentence for the record. "This book would not be in your hands without editor Lee Harris, publisher Irene Gallo, jacket designer Christine Folzer, editorial assistant Matt Rusin, the copy editors and proofreaders, and the rest of the Tor.com team, especially Mordecai, Desiree, and Renata. This book would not be nearly as lovely without cover artist Cynthia Shepard and map artist Rhys Davies. And I would not still be writing without my agent Jennifer Jackson and Michael Curry." Jesus Christ, it's over. That was such fucking shit. And everybody leaving compliments for it, I don't trust their gut. Let's read these compliments that are on the back of the book. N.K. Jemison, who I've never heard of, and that's not encouraging at all. "A wildly original and complex fantasy exploring how revolutions are won through trust and destroyed through selfishness. Wells excels at brooding, powerful, inhuman protagonists who just need a little kindness to be their badass best," says N.K. Jemison. "Unlike anything I've ever read, a layered and complex novel that delivers on the promise of epic fantasy," says Zoraida Cordova. And it's like, well, I know never to read anything by those authors, because, like, what are you fucking talking about? This isn't epic fantasy. This was a bullshit. Here's the little orange text at the top. "Witch King draws together Martha Wells' signature ability to create characters we adore and identify with, alongside breathtaking action and adventure, and the wit and charm we've come to expect from one of the leading writers of her generation." I've never heard a worse insult towards her generation than saying that she is one of the leading writers of that generation. Also, who the fuck is going to identify with Kai? He's literally just an asshole on purpose to literally everyone. Breathtaking action and adventure. There's no action, there's no suspense, there's no wit and charm. It's just This is what happens when you tell people when people who have never read a fucking book before the goddamn pandemic tell people that the Murderbot Diaries is a masterpiece of writing instead of light reading that's not deep at all. This is what happens when you tell the author, when you tell Martha Wells, that's that book series you wrote where you admit you have zero plan for the whole series. You don't have a general plan. You don't even have a plan for each fucking book. You don't believe in character development. You don't describe anything. This is what happens when you tell people like this that the most bullshit writing you've ever done. That's great. You don't need to change anything. It just makes her think that, and her publishers think that they can just throw out whatever rotting shit, unbelievably racist garbage can come into their fucking head that she can shit out onto the paper. And this costs $28.99. Alright, bye. Somehow I'll try to figure out how to fucking summarize this bullshit. Jesus Christ. For the record, I'm gonna have a giant bruise on my knee from smacking my leg with this book when she said that changing their clothes is what changed, means that their gender changes. I hate this lady. She needs to shut the fuck up. Bye.